Hey guys, good to see y'all tonight. Giving everybody a second to get on and get situated. If you guys will excuse me a little bit, I'm getting over a cold that's been kind of going through my house. So bear with me if there's a little bit of coughing, maybe in the occasional nose blowing or some such. How are you guys doing tonight? Hope everybody's doing okay. Surprises me that we're all the way into April of 2019. The year's gone by so fast so far. Well, before we get too far into what we're doing tonight, I wanted to just once again reiterate how amazing Ostara in the South was this year. I noticed a couple of you on the call were there with me, or on the live chat were there with me, and it was fantastic. What a great event! What a great weekend! Thank you so much to Paul and Kelly Hester for all their hospitality and all the work they put in to make that so successful. If you guys, anybody, this goes for anybody on this call, if you guys haven't interacted with Paul or his wife Kelly, they are fantastic people. They're absolutely amazing. They're the most warm, hospitable, just amazing folks to be around you've ever met. They did an amazing job hosting Ostara in the South. I was blown away at all the women, all the children. It was such a nice, family-friendly event, and really what a lot of folks needed. It was a really good recharge and a wonderful way to start off the spring. So to everybody who made Ostara in the South such a success, thank you to Paul and Kelly. Thank you so much for hosting, guys, and I'm really looking forward to it again next year. I think it goes without saying, any of you guys that weren't able to make it, please, it is worth your time to come out next year. It's a lovely site. The people are amazing, and I would love to see you guys there next year. Getting started off tonight, does anybody have anything they want to make sure we talk about? Early birds get the worm, and you guys are the first here. So if anybody does have questions they want, please go ahead and shoot them out, and I'd be happy to answer them or talk about anything you want to make sure I talk about. Well, until we do have something that you guys would like me to answer, next thing I want to plug that's coming up for the Asatru Folk Assembly. Not sure how many of you guys are that mobile, or if we have any of our European members here yet. I don't think that we do tonight so far, but we are having Ultima Thule, AFA Ultima Thule in Sweden. And Anders is putting that on for us, and it's going to be an amazing, amazing weekend on May the 24th through the 26th. So if anybody has the ability or wants to make a plan to go over to Sweden next month and make that happen, please reach out. Anders will help you get set up with what you need. But I'm looking really forward to it. It's going to be a great time, and I would so much love to meet our Scandinavian membership. A lot of great people over there, a lot of good energy. Anders has worked really hard to build something really good for us over there. So I'm looking forward to going and celebrating and meeting folks. So that's coming on, again, May the 24th through the 26th, and that's going to be in Sweden. So hopefully we can see some folks there. I know it's kind of a long shot for a lot of folks, but it's one of those things that I guarantee you if you go to, you're not going to regret. And well, Rob, think about it. You got a month. Maybe you can make something happen about a month and a half. We'd love to see you over there. If you can't, don't worry, because I'm sure that we'll have another event over there in some time. I know few and far between when we're doing international ones like that, but I guarantee you it won't be the last over in Scandinavia. We've got a really healthy membership over there. And everybody else and everybody who's at Ultima Thule, I invite you guys to come out to Odenshof for Midsummer. I'm looking for the dates for us here on Midsummer, but yeah, June 21st through the 23rd. And that's going to be at Odenshof in Brownsville, California. It's always a huge event. It's, can't say enough about how special it is to be at a temple for our gods, something that we own, something that we've put a lot of love into and really made sacred over the past few years. We'd love to see you guys out there for it if you can come out to Midsummer. I encourage anybody, if the traveling's difficult, carpool with somebody. As long as there are folk and good solid people, get them vouched for, get them in the car, and come on out because we'd love to have you guys at Midsummer. All right, one of our folk builders, Jason Plurd, is asking how I would encourage and instruct folks on inviting the divine / the gods in and engaging with them with piety. I think it's really important that we be cognizant of the divine in all the things we do. I think very simple things like morning devotional practice. A lot of the time people like to pull runes in the morning and be inspired by them. I would encourage some sort of a prayer or an interaction with the divine while you're doing that. I think that's a really good way to start that off. Some folks really like to do their altar work and their spiritual practice at night. I know depending on what I'm doing at night, seems like I'm in a more focused mood for spiritual things. So that's when I end up doing a lot of reading and a lot of the work in front of my altar. But I think that that hearth cult and building up your ancestral altar and interacting with the divine in your own home is really important. And if you can find ways to engage your spouse in that and any children you have or anyone else living in your home to really make that altar practice an important part of your day. When I've been able to implement that, it's been a really important thing for me, and it's something I've tried to get better at over the years. So that's the first step I'd like to encourage. Also, in the stuff that we do, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, but I think to interact with the divine, not just going through the motion, but making it very real to yourself. When you're doing an offering or you're doing something spiritual, really talk to the gods and give them a chance to listen to you if they're so inclined. Interact with them in a very real and visceral way and be very assured that the beings on the other end of that offering are hearing what you're doing, are observing what you're doing. So be mindful. Speak appropriately when you're addressing the gods. Present your best self. Be aware of what you do. Show up clean before the altar, before your holy space. Take the little extra time to prepare because you are interacting with beings much higher than yourself. You're interacting with something great. If it's a step that you would take to interact with your great-grandparents, then certainly you should do it when you're interacting with the gods. Being cognizant of that and cognizant of how we present ourselves, I think, is a really good way to invite the gods in. I also think that small offerings, don't always try to overdo it. Everything and every gesture you make doesn't need to be grand and spectacular, but it does need to be heartfelt and consistent. And I think that those things are kind of keys to bringing the divine in and interacting with them on a more daily basis. Uh-oh, Lane, go find yourself a computer because we don't want to lose you if you're not having the bandwidth for it on your phone. Recommendations on creating an altar at home. Some people have multiple altars. Some people even have altars for different deities as well as their ancestral altar. One thing that I would encourage, especially new people that don't have a lot of stuff, just set aside some surface area that's just for that purpose. It can be the top of a bookshelf. It can be a window ledge. It's nice if you have your own designated altar table or altar space for that. And I would suggest getting pictures of your ancestors or items that used to belong to your ancestors that are special to you. You know, maybe a watch that was special to your grandfather, or maybe your grandparents' wedding rings. Or I'm not sure what relics you have of your ancestors, but getting those little touchstones and placing them upon the altar to be kind of a focal point, I think, is important. And something I have always found very important on an altar, no matter what you're doing, is have some sort of flame, have a little candle, something. But fire is very important, and it always has been to our ancestors. And I think that using that and focusing on that to set aside that portion in your home is the first step. So, even a nice looking little piece of cloth, I don't know if you have a nice scarf or something, and putting it over some sort of special surface area that you have set aside, and a simple candle, and maybe some pictures of your ancestors would be a really good way to start your altar work and get you going that way. So that's what I would suggest, Katrina. Letitia, photos are cool because they're very visual and they're such an instant connection, but you don't need them. Certainly our ancestors, pre-1800s didn't have photos. Like I said, if you have any objects that remind you of your grandparents, or I say your grandparents, of any of your ancestors that you want to put on your altar, or objects that remind you of the gods, little pieces of just pieces of art also. Very simply, you can just print off, as far as representations of the gods, if there's a painting of the gods or a picture from online, you can print that off and put it in a nice frame and make it something special there. There's also, a lot of places that you can go and get little idols that represent the gods to put on your altars. One thing that I've used a lot on my altar is I actually got it on Venice Boardwalk, and if I would have thought I would have brought it up here, I don't know, maybe Mandy will run it up, but it's a little metal stick guy that's kind of got his arms around holding a spot for a little votive candle. And I always use that just as a generic representation of the ancestors in general, of ancestors that I may not know or may not have a representation of, and just have that flame. As long as you have something there, it's really the intent that counts. You want something that you can direct your energy and your worship towards, that's going to connect you with what you're doing and make sure it's purposeful and meaningful to you. And as long as it's respectful and dignified, that's really up to you in your home and how that's going to work. Steve, as far as incense goes, I certainly use incense. When I do altar work or whatever, it's always nice to offer a little something to the divine, to your ancestors, to the gods. Historically, our ancestors very often leave a portion of their meal on the altar. I think that's a good thing to do. I think it becomes tricky depending if you have pets in your house. That can become problematic. Having a little cup or something that you pour any kind of libation that you're offering, pour a shot in, pour a drink of your beer in, something that way, I think is a nice way to give a little offering. But I think incense is great. I think it was important to many of our ancestors in kind of a symbolic way. The smoke itself rises up to the heavens, rises up to the divine, and I think that's a special way to do an offering. But something else the incense does is the smells trigger you and subconsciously put you in a more spiritual place, to where you're doing something set aside, you're doing something holy. So I'm a big fan of using incense, and it's cheap, and you've got a lot of different options on the smells and the aromas that you think that you enjoy, and that you think your ancestor would enjoy, or you think that the gods or a particular god you're making offering to would enjoy. So I think incense gives you a lot of options that way. Here we go. There she is. So this is the little thing I was talking about. It's just a little stick dude with some kind of triangle helmet thing and an axe, but it's got a little place for a votive candle, and that's something I have on my altar place. I picked that up on Venice Boardwalk a long time ago. Whew. Yeah, it was like 10 years ago or more now. But that's what I would suggest if you don't have pictures, and even if you do, as a matter of fact, I mean, I've got a lot of pictures, but I still use it. And then, yeah, I am a big fan of using incense on the altar. Good point. Jason points out that you can really use tea lights are dirt cheap, and you can set them up on your altar, and it adds a lot of atmosphere. It's really special, and they burn out quick. So if you're doing something at night and you have people over or whatever you're doing, if you burn little tea lights, they'll be done and over, and you don't have to worry in case you fall asleep and forget about them. Not sure the burn time on them, but you can get a couple hours, and it's, like I said, it's a very nice thing, and they're easy to come by, and they do add a lot. Hey, Heather. Uh-oh, Lane, I'm sorry to hear you're having phone trouble, but it's good to have you. I'm glad you came on tonight. Um, does anybody else have any questions or anything they'd like to ask or make sure that I talk about today? Well, one thing I did want to mention, I don't know how many of you guys have VK yet. This last week, there was a lot of people concerned that Facebook was going to, amp up their censoring and various other stuff that we don't like, and that it may not be, the best platform for us long term. So if you'll notice, a lot of us have created accounts over with VK and are setting up a presence there. We're going to keep using Facebook as long as we can, and as long as it's the most efficient way for us to reach folks and to get our message out. But we want to, there's no sense not using all the avenues available to us, or at least, those that we feel be advantageous. So we are going to try to do things there and be more active on VK. So if that's something you guys want to do, please please add me as a friend if you want, but also look for the Asatru Folk Assembly, because I did set up a page for us over on VK. And so far, it doesn't look like the Facebook purge has begun in any kind of meaningful way. I still see folks. Still looks like this is a good way for us to communicate, but we are exploring other options just in case. I think having a plan is always a good idea. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to talk about tonight or make sure I addressed, or anything going on that they wanted me to comment on, or anything that way? Well, while we wait for any questions that may come up, I hope you guys are enjoying doing these. I'm having a lot of fun with them, and I like having a way to talk to you guys. So I kind of look forward to these every month, and as long as people still want to do them and still enjoy them, I plan on keeping going with it. Terry, as far as news on the second half, the struggle continues. Things are going really well. We're still searching. We're absolutely looking at properties and trying to figure out the properties that best suit our needs, geographically, building wise, lot size. But yeah, we're set and ready and trying to find the perfect fit for us. So we're actively doing that. We've got our financing figured out, and we're doing great. You guys have been very generous, and yeah, so second half thing is absolutely moving forward. That's where we're at on it, but hopefully we'll have more news for you as things go on. But yeah, we're fully engaged and finding a spot and getting all set, and I think you guys will be very happy with what we end up coming up with. Oh yeah, Jessica Hansen. Northern Blood's going to be starting another fundraiser, so please keep an eye out. I think that's connected to the Hoff number 2 that's getting set up. But yeah, I don't know if you guys got any of these, but Jessica and her kindred did a whole program of selling these beautiful little AFA bookmarks, and they're awesome. I really like mine, and it was very generous. They set this up as a way to raise money to pay off Odenshoff. And it's that kind of stuff and that kind of generosity by you guys that has allowed us to get that thing paid off and be set and ready for a second one here this quickly. You guys never cease to amaze me. And Jessica, thank you so much for starting these fundraisers and putting in all the work to make, beautiful stuff like this to help us get where we're trying to go. I appreciate it a lot. Steve mentions that he saw an article today saying Australia plans on fining social media that don't screen out hate speech. It's unfortunate that free speech is getting demonized and pushed aside like that. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that's not going on for folks in Australia that run social media. And yeah, keep us posted. And it's really unfortunate that things go like that in the world sometimes. I really appreciate the freedom of speech that we do have here in this country. And I hope our brothers and sisters around the world get to exercise as much of that as possible. And I hope we're helpful to find ways for them to stick around just in case they do end up running afoul of these crazy policies that keep changing all the time. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, good. Thank you very much for reminding me on that. I was certainly planning to, but there's no sense not doing it more. Folk services. I'm not sure how many of you guys know about it, and hopefully you all do. If you guys need to know more, your folk builder would be very happy to help you. But one thing that's really special about the Asatru Folk Assembly is our folk services program. And we started creating a fund to where when our membership finds themselves, when the bottom falls out on their lives, it's been really nice to create something to try to help them. Be it a natural disaster or something unforeseen or a death in the family. Tragedy can hit, and it's really important that we as a church are there for our members and there for our people when bad things happen in their life. And so we've started years back, we started raising money for folk services. So we always have an account ready with some funds. So just in case, we can jump right in and get help where it needs to be. And you guys have been very generous with that over the years. Funds in that account are dwindling a little bit here. We've had a couple of things this year and a couple of families who've been in need that we've had to help out. So I would encourage all of you guys to go to www.runestone.org, and on our donate link there, you can donate money to AFA Folk Services. Like I said, that money goes to AFA members that find themselves in crisis and need a little bit of help. We've been able to do a lot to help people over the past several years. It's something I'm very proud of. It may not always be enough money for us to fix it or make everything right, but it is enough money that people, if they need a place to stay, we can take care of them for a little bit. If they need food, we can make sure they've got someplace warm and something to eat. If things happen in their life, we can help get them by. And I'm really proud that we're doing that. So like I said, please, if you get the opportunity, www.runestone.org and click that donate button. One thing people like to do is click on a recurring donation. That's something people like to do a lot, to where they can set aside, $5 a month or something. They don't really notice it, but it starts filling up those coffers very quick, so we have resources available to help folks. So thank you guys, and thank you for reminding me to plug that. Cole, let's plan on dealing with the new drama in New Zealand. Keep on keeping on and move forward as things arise. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to the situation in New Zealand, but there was a very, very nasty article that came out trying to demonize a number of people in our AFA brothers and sisters in New Zealand and somehow loosely connect them with the shootings in Christchurch. And it's ridiculous. Our people have had no involvement with that. As a matter of fact, some of our people were first responders that helped clean up in the aftermath of that. There's very little we can do when outside forces want to lie and scandalously and irresponsibly try to demonize people. Best we can do is make sure that we are doing the right things, that we're not doing anything wrong, and we're not. And to try to support our brothers and sisters the best way we know how, if there's ways that they need help or if there's help that they ask for or things we can do. And I'm always open to that, and I'm always got my ear to the streets in case something comes up that we can do to be helpful. It's tragedy that some reporters would rather get a flashy story than be responsible with the things they write, because those things have consequences. Any hints at locations? I'm assuming you're talking about Hoff number 2. Big hint at location. We are looking, we are primarily right now looking at the Northern Plains region. We're trying to look at, a lot of things aren't off the table just in case, but we're heavily looking for something within a few hours of the Twin Cities. Trying to find something in that area that's gonna meet our needs and be there. The community that we have in the Northern Plains in that area has really taken off. They've been extremely consistent. We've got 3 different kindreds right there, which is very helpful for support. We've got a number of volunteers that have been very consistent, so we have some redundancy, and that's where we're spending a lot of our time looking. Like I say, nothing's off the table so far. Well, a few things are off the table, but we're keeping our options open. But that is where we're spending a lot of our focus. We always need items donated for the auction at Midsummer. We will always take donations for our auctions. They're a really great way for folks to get some cool things and for us to raise money for upcoming Hoffs and AFA stuff. So if anybody ever does want to donate to an AFA auction, we appreciate it, and the money gets used very responsibly. So thank you for asking, and yes, absolutely, we need donated items. Sorry, guys, I was just taking a second to read the discussion coming up in the chat on the side. Gothar coordinator Blaine Qualls would like me to talk a little bit more about the family's role in doing things around ancestral altars and home altars. And it's very important that so many of the things we do are based on a macrocosm, microcosm concept. And within our own homes, it's really important that husbands and fathers step up and serve the function of the high priest of their house, of the Gothi of their house. So it's important that in that aspect, in our homes, the father or the husband can take on that role of representing the family before the gods and being the Gothi for the purpose of that. It's also important that our ladies can consider themselves Githyas in their own home in that sense. When you approach the altar to do something holy, to take on the mindset that you are stepping into a priestly role for that time while you're in that sacred space, I think is really important. I think it teaches a reverence and a respect for what you're doing. And when you take on that mantle of performing a priestly function, it really does change how you look at things and the seriousness with which you approach stuff. So I think that's important, and I think it's important that you feel empowered to approach the divine at your house. Now, given given the best circumstance, it's great to have Gothar that can go and approach the divine on your behalf and the behalf of the community. But if you're isolated and that's not an option for you, you should feel encouraged to, in your own way, when you're being humble and respectful, to approach the divine and to not shy away from that. And the sense of your family altar, you're representing your family before your ancestors. And so you have a very powerful connection to those entities. You have a very powerful connection to your ancestors, and you should feel inspired and encouraged to take that step as a priest within your own house, especially when you're dealing with the ancestral cult and your house cult. Ben Peterson asks that when you get a local inquiry, is there a guide that you could give out, or should you direct them to your folk builder? I would encourage you always to direct them first to our website, www.runestone.org, but then also try to get them in touch with their local folk builder. That way there's a face there, there's a voice there, and there's a real connection that they can speak to, and in a very interactive way. We'd love to have people interacting with a real person from day one, and I think that does a lot to make it real from the very start. And it's got the benefit of someone who's interactive and can answer questions. So yes, Ben, please direct them to their local folk builder. Anybody that has questions, if you go to www.runestone.org, we've got a contact page that's got the folk builders and what regions they're responsible for. So I'd highly encourage you guys to go there if you have any question on who's folk building for a particular region. Events for the Northeast. I think there's some local things in the works. I know that Bottle for Stone Ship Kindred has some things they're working on as far as local events. But our standby in the Northeast that we can always count on is Winter Nights. In the middle of October, Winter Nights in the Poconos down in Pennsylvania. That's something we do every year. I have to stop and think now, but I think we're on year 7 this year. I'm sure Cliff will correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but that's something I look forward to every year. It's a very special one to me. It's where I met my wife. It's a really, really nice event. It's a really cool time of the year. It's beautiful because the fall colors are coming out. So I would really encourage anybody who can get out there to Pennsylvania in the middle of October. We're going to have Winter Nights, and I would love to see you guys there. And that's going to be the one that we can count on for the Northeast, but I'm sure there'll be other local things. Cliff Erickson is your folk builder, and he'd be really happy to get you squared away and help keep you in the loop in case things do come up when local things happen. Oh, lots more folks joined us. Welcome, guys. Good to talk to y'all tonight. All right, so one of our folk builders, Heather Klinkenbeard, is making a point here. She wants to point out, and I think this is a really good point, that everything we post and how we conduct ourselves, especially on social media, is out there for the world to see, and it does have impacts. The more people want to try to hurt us and hurt our members for their association with us and our church and our faith, the more we see people scouring over social media. I was talking about freedom of speech earlier, and I think it's really important that we be able to express ourselves, but I think it's equally as important, if not more so, that we realize the responsibility we have when we say things. A lot of folks get really free on social media, and they'll post a picture that's not them and a name that's not theirs, but they'll say things they wouldn't say in person. Sometimes they'll say things just to be silly. Sometimes they'll say things to get a reaction. Those are the kind of posts that HR departments go over when somebody gets doxxed and has trouble at work. Those are the kind of posts that really can affect people negatively. So I don't want you guys to not express yourselves. I would never want you guys to not stand up for what you believe in. But I want you guys to think really carefully about how you express yourself, about the things that you say and the pictures that you share. And your meme may be hilarious and we all may laugh, but it's a lot less funny when somebody's HR department is going through and has no context for it. And it's a lot less funny when the enemy is looking for ammunition to use against us. So I would just advise some caution. Um, I harp on the word Aryan, and I don't do it to be scary, and I don't do it to be edgy and whatever. I do it because it's a call for us to rise up. It's a call for us to become the noblest versions of ourselves, to shine with nobility. And that should come through with how we conduct ourselves in person, certainly, but it should also be there in how we conduct ourselves online. And keep in mind, when you do post things online, those things don't go away. So all of us, myself included, should keep that in mind when we post stuff, because it is a responsibility. We represent ourselves, we represent our gods and our folk, and we represent our brothers and sisters that may, have their HR department looking at what you post sometimes. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so Jason Plurd's asking us, what other ways besides financial contributions can we do to move Asatru into the future and to move things forward? And he does it. It does bear mentioning that financial contributions help a lot because they allow us as a whole to move forward. But individually, I think one of the big things we can do to move forward is what I just talked about: behaving nobly and acting nobly. Being conscious of the things that we do and maturing past a point of just trying to be edgy, getting to a point where we take ourselves seriously, we take our church seriously, we take what we're doing seriously. And the other thing is to bring up our brothers and sisters with us when we have advantages, when we have job opportunities, when we have things come up in our life that we can bring our folk along with us, that we can help give them opportunities and help move them forward. That's how we can bring a lot of things into the future. When we conceive of what we do as a serious way of living and not just as a hobby or not just as a point of interest, that's how we're going to move things forward into the future. When we pursue success in our lives, see, the more successful we all are as individuals, and I don't just mean financially, the more successful we are in all aspects of our lives, the more we bring our church as a whole up, the more we bring the man and the woman next to us up. We can do that, and we can find the resources physically, mentally, and spiritually to help each other out. So I think by all of us focusing on winning and being successful, that's going to bring us all up financially, health-wise, and just spiritually. And everyone wants to be around winners. So let's go out there and win. Everyone would love it if we all could be winners, and that inspires others to win. And that's what I want us all to do. So that's what I would suggest, Jason. Mandy thinks it's year 10 of Winter Nights. That may well be going back. Years are kind of sneaking up on me like the gray in my beard here. But yeah, we've been doing Winter Nights for a long time, and it's got a lot of momentum and a lot of really special things attached to it. All right, guys, another note that Blaine would like me to make to y'all. If you are interested in becoming a Gothi or Githia in the Asatru Folk Assembly, I'd ask that you go on our website, again, www.runestone.org, and see if you meet the qualifications. If you're serious and something you'd like to pursue, we do have an application there for you to print off. So everybody is aware, I'm putting the call out. You got a little bit less than a month. All of the applications are due on May 1st so that we can vet them and make the decisions we need to make and pair people up, because we need to start our classes in June at midsummer. So anybody who is interested in that, I would encourage you to go check it out and look for the application there on the website. And Christine, I agree with you completely. We need to rise above and live life that shows respect for the gods. And I think that's really important for all of us to think about when we're doing things. Everything's not always going to go perfect in the world. And the more successful we are and the more we're trying to do big things, there will be people that try to stand in your way. There'll be people that try to stand in our way. And through all of it, no matter what we do, because a lot of that depends on the circumstance, but we're always well served in rising above and behaving a little bit better, a little bit more noble, a little bit, being a little bit wiser, a little bit more dignified, because people see that and it does have an effect. It has an effect on how we take ourselves, how we conduct and see ourselves, and it absolutely has an effect on how other people see us. And oftentimes that's the best antidote to some of the naysayers and the backbiters we have out there. Mike Richardson asks, is the route to Gothi similar to the 9 Doors of Midgard program? No, not really, because a lot of it is more broad than that. The 9 Doors of Midgard program is a very personal, esoteric program, whereas the Gothar course is very exoteric. It's very much about practicing religion in a group setting and providing religiosity for a group of people and in a community context. We do have rune work in there, and a lot of the runic material that we use is from Dr. Flowers, and as is the 9 Doors. So there is some overlap in that sense, but no, mostly the 9 Doors is focused on internal improvements, and the Gothi program is focused more on how we would interact with the group or with the AFA as a whole. So that's another thing. Jason Plurd points out to us that a big thing is knowing how to pick our battles and choose what's worth going after and what's not. When you do something or you get in a petty fight, or you want to, I don't know, whenever you find yourself in a struggle or at a quandary as to what to do or what to say, I think it does us all good to contemplate what we're trying to accomplish. And is what we're about to say, is what we're about to post, is how we're about to present ourselves going to get us closer to that goal or going to move us further away from that goal? Because like I was talking about earlier on all we do, we need to focus on winning. I think somewhere along the way, folks stopped thinking about winning and they started thinking about, just making a point and, going out with a bang and losing in a big way. No, I don't want to worry about that. I suppose that's an okay plan B, but I want to win. I want us all to win. And so we need to be thinking at all times, how do we win? How do we accomplish what we're trying to achieve? How do we get there? How do we help move our brothers and sisters closer to what we're trying to achieve? I think we'd all do good if we kept that in mind. And I think that's extremely important. Thanks for pointing that out, Jason. Sure, April. April's asking about the 9 Doors and just what that is. And some of us who haven't been around for forever may not be really aware of that. The 9 Doors of Midgard is kind of the basic curriculum for the Rune Guild. And it's an esoteric program of study that involves internalizing and becoming familiar with the runes and working with your spiritual energies that way, and really developing an understanding of the runes, and how to work with them for your own esoteric practice. If you plan on being a member of the Rune Guild, if I'm correct, I'm under the impression that's still their core curriculum and something that you're required to do. But even if you don't want to, I would encourage you, if that's something that's important to you, is that kind of internalization of the runes and working on those esoterics, I would encourage you to get a copy of the Nine Doors of Midgard and take a look at it, practice some of the lessons they have in there. The program is really solid. I've done a lot of the doors in that program and had really good results. So I think that is a very worthwhile thing for you to look into if you'd like. Like I say, you can read the book and do the work without trying to be part of the Rune Guild. So if that interests you, do check that out. Dr. Flowers, his writings on the runes are spectacular, and I genuinely believe that he has the most knowledge of the runes of perhaps anyone who's ever lived. So his work, he's spent his entire life doing it, and he's very good at what he does. He knows what he's talking about. Certainly as it comes to runes. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to talk about tonight, like to have me comment on, or any questions anybody might have that you guys would like me to answer? Hey, Bodie. Got a couple of folks just joining us. Again, I'm taking questions if anybody has any that they come up with. In the little blank time here, I'll make another plug to, if you can get over to Sweden next month for Ultima Thule. It's going to be fantastic, and I'm looking forward to it. But if you can, or if you can't, please do keep in mind the possibility coming out to Midsummer at Odenshof. That's going to be the 21st through the 23rd of June. And we're really looking forward to that. That's usually our biggest event of the year. It's going to be a great crowd of people. And we're going to be celebrating and worshiping our gods in our own holy, sacred space that's ours. And that's a really special thing. If you guys haven't made it out to the Hof, please do. Even if you have, we'd love to have you out there again. So one of our other folk builders, Svan Harrell, asks, is there going to be an updated bloat, feigning, and stumble book in the Asatru Folk Assembly's future? Yes, absolutely. Can't give you a timetable on that, but that is something that's being worked on. It's something that we're going to get squared away. The AFA Book of Blotar is very old and outdated at this point, and we're absolutely trying to get that updated and codified and taken care of. But that is something that we are going to have in the future, hopefully not the too distant future. Well, Bodie was late because he was out rucking and working out, so I suppose that's worthy of a pass. Glenn, you might be the only Asatru in Mississippi. I wish I could say that Mississippi was a big growth area for the Asatru Folk Assembly, but as of yet, it hasn't been, which is unfortunate. My mom's family has lived in Mississippi since shortly after the Revolutionary War, and I got a lot of roots in Mississippi. They're from this little town called Wiggins. So I would love to see a bigger AFA presence in Mississippi. If you know people, I would love to, have your help in starting to build that. So, but yeah, as of right now, I don't know too many AFA members in Mississippi. What else we got, guys? Anything else anybody wants to make sure we cover or talk about tonight? Don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I enjoy talking with you guys, and this is a good opportunity if anybody does have questions or things that have been on their mind that they want to make sure I react to or say something about. This is the time for it. So if you guys think anything or have anything, please feel free to ask me, okay? Ah, you live up in northern Mississippi, Glenn. I haven't spent any time in northern Mississippi. I've spent a little bit of time along the coast there, and then I've been up to Wiggins several times, especially as a child. Interviews and podcasts. Yes, for sure what they are. I couldn't tell you right now. I've got a couple of people that have expressed some interest in having me on. There's a couple of programs as related to South Africa that I want to get involved with and be on. And then Dave Martell is going to have me on his show. So be looking out for that. If you have, I don't know how y'all are connected to people, but if there's any spot that it'd be beneficial to do an interview on, or anybody has a podcast or a show that they're doing, I'd love to go on. I'd love to be a guest whenever that happens. I've always had fun doing those, and I'd love to get the message of the Asatru Folk Assembly out there. So if you know anybody that is looking for guests or whatever, I'm always down to do something like that. All right. Michael Ross asks, what are my thoughts about Votan's Nation? I hope we're talking about the same thing, because I think that's a name that's gotten used a lot over the years. If you're talking about the group over in the north, I guess northeast isn't fair, in the upper south area of the country, I don't know them overly well, and I certainly wouldn't want to speak out of turn or say something insulting about people. Our interaction has not been great in the past. My bigger thoughts in general are, oftentimes people come through and everybody wants to start their own thing. Everyone has some great idea about, how to do Asatru better. And so they try to reinvent the wheel and start from scratch in their own backyard. I would encourage everyone who wants to practice Asatru to join the Asatru Folk Assembly, get on a team that's been around for a long time, that's moving forward and accomplishing, and then let's make it better together. So that's kind of my thoughts in general about a lot of these things that kind of prop or sprout up overnight or recently. I'd much rather see us pool our resources with something that's established, that's moving forward, and try to, well, fix is the right word, but try to maximize what we have, than, always trying to start some new thing and getting distracted by something shiny. I think that putting in the work on something that's established really accomplishes much more for us in the end. It's like I said a little bit ago, what are we doing and what are we trying to accomplish by it? And so I think we're accomplishing the goals that I've heard from Votan's Nation better as the Asatru Folk Assembly. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts on that real quick. Well, Jason, talk to Carolyn. I'd love to come on her show if she wants me on there. Yeah, I'd love to come on Carolyn Emmerich's show if she'd like to have me on there, but that's entirely up to her. But yeah, as far as I know, I can still travel to Europe. Don't tell nobody and get me in trouble, because I'm really excited about my trip over there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michael. Then we're talking about the same organization. Hmm. Mississippi is close to Alabama. That's one of the other things that I think is worth pointing out. And I mentioned that we don't have a lot of members in Mississippi, but Mississippi is really close to Louisiana, and we have members there. And it's really close to Alabama, and we have members there. And it's very close to northern Florida, and we have a lot of members. We have a lot of members in northern Florida. So just because there's a state line between somebody, that's not relevant for your ability to practice Asatru with other Asatru. We've got tons of members in the Deep South. Glenn, I would encourage you to reach out to your folk builders, to Trent East, to Ralph Viola, or even up to James Dover in South Carolina. They'd love to get you set up and meet some folks that are close to you. And in your region, within just a couple hours drive of you, there is quite a bit of people that I'm sure would love to interact with you. Yeah, no problem, Michael. That's what I'm here for, is to respond to stuff and answer questions. And thank you for asking a question about that. Oh, Bodie, that's a good question. Bodie asks how other pro-European groups view us at Asatru. I don't know. I guess that's a better question to ask them, and I'm sure the answer is very different depending on which group you're talking about. I have not experienced any negativity from any other pro-European groups in regards to Asatru or the AFA in specific. As a matter of fact, I've seen a lot of support and a lot of people that like what we're doing. So I think that question kind of runs the gamut depending on who you ask. But so far, the solidarity and support I've seen has been really great. Good, Glenn. You go blaze that trail. I really would love to see something happen down there, so that'd be great. Awesome. Looks like you're already in touch with Trent. Trent's a great guy, and he would love to help you get set up and interact with some folks. I know he's got some people in Alabama, so he may have some very direct connections to get you set up. All right, guys. You got anything else tonight? Been talking for about an hour, and as always, I thoroughly enjoy talking to you guys. I absolutely love my AFA family. I am the luckiest guy in the world to be where I'm in, or where I am, and to be part of the Asatru Folk Assembly. So it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. If anybody has any last questions or things they want us to talk about, I'll give you a couple more minutes to throw those out there. And if not, I'll be talking to you guys again in May. Questions going once. Questions going twice. No, Glenn, thank you. You've given us something to talk about here for a little bit. Don't worry about that at all. Oh, you're very welcome, Rob. Like I say, I enjoy these. I look forward to these. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to me tonight and for being part of the conversation. Thank you for being part of our AFA family. Thank you for all the support. If you want to donate to folk services, like I was talking about earlier, www.runestone.org, go to the donate section. You guys are amazing. And yeah, guys, have an absolutely fantastic April. And I look forward to talking to you guys again in May, if not sooner. Thank you, guys. Y'all have a good night. Hail the gods, hail the folk, hail the AFA.